All right, guys, welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back to another book study. This is book study is about geoengineering by Dane Wigington. You got to go to his website. It's www.geoengineeringwatch.org. And this I think this is my third installment, I believe, of reading his book. It's an excellent read. So these are just my installments that I do on my channel called Book Studies, just to disseminate some information. I think that we are already inundated with so much news out there that's propagandized by the government and by the mainstream media machine that it's upon us to at times step away from the stream of messaging because it could be information overload, and sometimes take a deep breath and start to delve into the other ancillary concepts or ancillary contents that are deemed to be ancillary, but they really are not ancillary. The things that are made to be insignificant usually are the things that are very significant. And the things that people paint as being significant are not. They're usually painted as distractions, or they're used as distractions and painted as something that's significant. So all the mainstream messaging that people fall into, because every local news channel is talking about it, CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, I mean, the gamut, they're all on the same accord. And this idea that the two-party system allows people to pick and choose which side is just it's a fallacy. It's all a game. They're all one side. And sometimes we should take it upon ourselves as sentient beings to say, hey, you know what? I'm gonna stop and just read other things that are not being discussed. Just because something is not being discussed regularly does not mean it's not true. Religion is discussed regularly, politics is discussed regularly, the weather is discussed regularly, and in those things that I just mentioned that are discussed regularly, there are underlying truths that will pull you away from what you've been told on a regular basis. You will come to find out that there are lies beneath the surface because there's truth that lies beneath the false surface that you're magnetically glued to. So when I'm reading these books, I understand that they're not exciting. I understand that I'm not going to get a lot of views from them. I'm not doing it for that. I just hope that a soul or two will find the information valuable and pass the information along to other people. That's what I can hope for. As I received enlightenment, I also want to extend that to other people as well. Okay? All right, so here we go. This is Dane Wigington. This is his book, and he's the author. It's called Geoengineering: A Chronicle of Indictment, Exposing the Global Climate Engineering Cover-Up. I was astounded to discover the mountain of data that existed on the subject of stratospheric aerosol geoengineering, solar radiation management, stratospheric aerosol injection, cloud albedo enhancement, and other forms of climate intervention. Now, all those interventions that he just mentioned in the book, all those interventions that he just mentioned, he's going to get into details of each one later on. And you're going to see how each one of those interventions affects our climate and affects all types of life and impacts our hydrologic cycle as well. Okay? He talked about stratospheric aerosol geoengineering, solar radiation management, stratospheric aerosol injections, and cloud albedo enhancement. Okay? And other forms of climate intervention. How could such a critical and alarming subject be so completely off radar and without any media or science acknowledgement or public awareness? And that's kind of the question before I started reading this. When I started this video, I said, our minds are so programmed because they've been giving us information for so long that we are numb to the capabilities of delving into the realm of critical thought. We can't even get to the point of asking critical questions because our minds are not built that way. We've been always given information. We've been told what to think, not how to think. And so when you believe that the government has your best interest at heart and you feel like the news media or the media outlets that are supposed to put forth information and fact that's supposed to be factual to benefit the citizens of that are underneath that government, you are automatically putting yourself in a state of assuming that an entity outside of yourself has your best interest at heart. And when you when you put yourself in that disposition, you end up finding out that you no longer are thinking for yourself. They are thinking for you. And as a matter of fact, I'll go a little bit deeper. They're telling you what to think. And so because you've been told what to think consecutively and on a consistent continuum, it's kind of hard to take back what you've been told and start to ask questions, because consciously and subconsciously you believe in your heart of hearts that there's no way our government will lie to us. There's no way that they're going to pollute the sky. And if they were doing something dangerous, why would they do that? The news will let us know, wouldn't they? That's the idiocy we are all under. We assume that they have our best interest at heart. We don't think that anything nefarious is going on. And in the small pockets of people who actually do think that there are evil things going on, we are considered conspiracy theorists. Even if the amount of evidence is voluminous to point towards malevolence that's going on in our skies, we don't have people that are looking into that. They shut us up. Was that the intent? So he's asking himself questions like, was that the intent of these people to destroy our climate? What objectives were being carried out with this blatant and toxic atmospheric aerosol spraying? I still did not want to believe that what I saw in the sky was actually fully deployed climate engineering programs. I meticulously gathered precipitation samples for testing at the local California State certified lab. I tested for the same heavy metals I had identified as the primary elements named in key climate engineering patents, starting with aluminum. So this guy's just not going off of what he's hearing. He said, I'm going to test it. I'm going to apply scientific reasoning. I'm going to apply scientific observation. I'm going to use my senses to gather data that's going to either prove, prove what I think to be true, or disprove what I, think to be true. Because everybody is operating off of what they think is true. His truth is that there's no way that they're doing this to us. There's no way that they're putting harmful toxins in the sky and spraying the atmosphere with aerosol injections. There's no way. That's his truth. But everyone has their own individual truth. People say opinions are subjective. Truth is also subjective, especially when there's no true foundation to disprove or prove the truth. So in Dane Wigington's case, he says, I'm going to test what I see to see what's actually in it. That's what we all should be doing. We shouldn't just take information and say, oh, the information that was given to me is true because they said it. That's a perfect way. That's the perfect recipe to being manipulated, to just simply accept what's given to you. So he tested this. I tested for the same heavy metals I had identified as primary elements named in key climate engineering patents, starting with aluminum. I had so hoped this toxic metal would not show up in the test. I prayed that aluminum was not in the rain. I knew that if it was, the course of my life would be forever altered. I still remember opening the first lab test from the United States mail there, and there it was. Yes, aluminum was indeed coming down in our rain. Now you may ask the question, what's the big deal about aluminum? All right, what's the big deal? Well, if you do research, you understand that aluminum, all right, is not good for the body. It's bioavailable, meaning that your body latches onto it and it's hard for your body to get rid of it. It's a toxic metal. It causes Alzheimer's and dementia. It causes brain problems in people. And it causes all sorts of autoimmune diseases. It causes respiratory issues as well. This is what we're breathing in. And then when people get sick, they say it's a virus, that it's something in the air. They're exactly right. It is something in the air. You see how the media, you see how truth and falsities are mixed together to cause confusion? We truly believe that viruses exist. even though we know for a fact that germ theory disproves that to be true because it's never been proven that viruses exist. But let's say viruses do exist. Many people view viruses as things that linger in the air. So when somebody coughs, they say cover your mouth because you got to keep it in. Because if you cough, it's going to be in the air, right? And then if someone else breathes it in, they're going to get sick. If somebody else inhales it, they're going to get sick. The true virus that's in the air are the toxic, stratospheric aerosol injections that are being put in our stratosphere by the billions of particles, nanoparticulates, because you can't see them with the naked eye. And we are inhaling that every day. That's what's getting you sick. That's what's causing oxidative stress. That's what's causing premature aging. That's the true virus, folks. What you're breathing in. The first precipitation test revealed 7 ppb for aluminum. When he says ppb, just to let you guys know, he means parts per billion. ppb means parts per billion. So the first precipitation test revealed 7 parts per billion aluminum. He immediately sought out and contacted a hydrogeologist in the attempt to put the contamination amount into context. Because mind you, this guy's not a hydrogeologist. He's just doing a test. He just wanted to know if aluminum was in the water. He found it. It was 7 ppb, 7 parts per billion. He doesn't know what that number means. This is not his field. But remember, initially, he just wanted to see if there was aluminum in the rain, in the water. Now he found it. Now he wanted to contextualize the amount. Is this amount dangerous? Is there supposed to be a small amount? Is this amount safe? How is 7 ppb bad, or is 7 pp something that we should not be worried about? So he wants to put the information that he just gathered through testing. He wanted to put that in context. So he contacted a hydrogeologist. All right. So this is what he ended up finding out. The hydrogeologist made clear to Dane, that I should not even see 1 ppb of aluminum in precipitation. So here he sees 7. He tested, and there's 7 ppb, parts per billion, in the rainwater that he tested. He speaks to the hydrogeologist. The hydrogeologist says, hey, you're not even supposed to have 1 ppb in there. You have 7. But this is why the hydrogeologist said he's not supposed to have 1, because it's due to the location of where Dane Wigington took the test. Okay? This is what he said. He says this: you should not even see 1 ppb of aluminum in precipitation from the location where the test was collected. So the location is key, because where you collect the rain, depending on the how heavily the area is polluted or lack thereof, will dictate how much aluminum is actually taken from the test that you're testing. Okay? So the hydrogeologist says this: a filtered forested mountaintop, which is where Dane did the test, a filtered forested mountaintop away from all roads and industry. Why is that key? What do roads have? Roads have cars. What do cars do? They emit carbon. Carbon is a toxin. That's why everyone's blaming cars for the heavy pollution of the earth. But it's not just the cars that's polluting the earth. It's the anthropogenic weather modification systems and the weather intervention systems that are waging much more of an impact on our climate than people driving on the roads. I would go and say it's not even a 50-50 proposition in my estimation. I would go as far as saying it's like 70-30. 70% the geoengineering stuff, and the 30% is what human beings are doing to the planet. Just by our day-to-day living, throwing plastics in the water, our heavy use of dependency of fossil fuels, etc. Like all those things are not good for the planet as well. But to speak of the deterioration of the planet without actually including climate intervention programs would be a travesty, and that's what's happening. No one's blaming it. No one even talks about that on the news. Everyone keeps talking about fossil fuels and carbon emissions. All right. So the hydrogeologist is saying, no, you tested for aluminum in an area that's not supposed to have aluminum at all. A filtered forested mountaintop away from all roads and industry, because industry, they also emit carbon. All right. There's no blowing dust of any kind anywhere remotely near the test location. So there's no blowing dust that would transfer the aluminum debris or aluminum, the nanoparticulates of aluminum to transfer that into the water that was being tested when he tested for the rain. So there's no gust of wind. There's no dust of any kind anywhere remotely near the test location. Subsequent precipitation tests collected over the next year revealed rapid and staggering increases in the aluminum levels. So the hydrogeologist told him, like, you're not even supposed to have 1 ppb based upon your location. Subsequent precipitation tests collected over the next year. So this is Dane Wigginton continually testing the water, right? So subsequent precipitation tests collected over the next year revealed rapid and staggering increases in the aluminum levels. So not only did he find aluminum in the water, not only did he also find out from the hydrogeologist that you're not even supposed to have 1 parts per billion in the water. None. But as Dane continued to do tests over the years, the amount of ppb in terms of the aluminum inside the water was increasing over the next year. The aluminum levels increased. One precipitation test showed aluminum levels up to 3,450 parts per billion in a single rain event test. Think about that. He initially started it with 7 in the single digits. The hydrogeologist says, man, you're not supposed to have 1. Subsequently, during the years, he keeps testing. And one of the tests comes back with 3,450 ppb in a single rain event test. That's insane. If you understand the toxicity levels of aluminum, and you understand how it impacts the body, why do you think that they started actually advertising deodorants and things that people use on the body? Why do you think they start to advertise no aluminum? That starts to be the big fad, right? So if you want to buy something that's good for your body, it would always have the big disclaimer, no aluminum, no aluminum. And you know, when it gets to a point where the FDA, Food and Drug Administration, has to like blatantly tell you that something's bad, you know it's bad, because the FDA approves a lot of toxins that people put inside their bodies every day. But for them to actually acknowledge that aluminum is horrible, lets you know that they can't hide it anymore. They were putting it all in people's deodorants, people's shampoos, people's lotions. Aluminum is that's not something that you joke around with. 3,450 ppb in a single rain event test. His research led to other individuals who had done similar testing with comparable results. So this is not just him making this up. There are other people testing it, and they're finding out that there's aluminum in the rain. Now that fact alone should raise eyebrows of everyone that's on the planet. But ask the question, do people care? They don't give a damn. They don't care. You know what they care about? They care about what the news tells them. If the news doesn't mention it, then what you're saying doesn't make sense. And you say, no, it can't be that simple. It is that simple to the simpletons. But for critical thinkers, we can't imagine thinking like them because we are critical thinkers. People who don't critically think don't think on that level. They are that simple. It is that simple to them. If the news doesn't say it, then it's not true. And if you're saying it, it's a lie, because I've looked in Google and typed in chemtrails and it says it's a conspiracy theory that's been debunked. But how has it been debunked when these people have not actually debunked it with evidence? Whereas the contrary position has evidence to debunk their fallacy of mentioning that chemtrails, or the scientific term geoengineering, is something that's a conspiracy theory. They have the burden of proof is on them. It's clearly evident they're spraying the skies, folks. I'm not getting on here just making this up. This is proven fact. Just because it's not popular doesn't mean it's not true. This idea that if everyone doesn't know it, it must not be true. The opposite is true. If a lot of people don't know it, it's most likely probably true, because they're keeping it covert. It's a secret operation. Because if more of the masses would wake up and see it for what it is, many people will be in an outrage, but a lot of people just don't know any better. They don't know. And unfortunately, some people do know, they don't care, which is actually more of a travesty to me, but that's neither here nor there. I found myself in a crossroad of unimaginable magnitude. Could I just go on with my life as before, knowing what I know now? Knowing what I now know? I mean, how can you? How can you, as a human being, as a sentient being, find out information that's detrimental to the plant, detrimental to your life and to every other life forms on the planet, microbiome, ocean life, aquatic life, land life, animal life, insect life? When something is that catastrophic, how can you, like, especially when you know? It's one thing if you don't know, but when you know, how can you, from that point of acknowledgement, proceed as normal, as business as usual? You can't. Not if you are a person that's a critical thinker, not if a person who has a shred of sanity in their minds, not a person who cares about their fellow man or cares about their children's children. If you care about the planet that you are under, your habitat, where you reside, that's normal, right? Well, to some people, it's not. Some people are afraid of getting new information because it forces you to respond to that information that you've just received. You either A, have to make a change to what you've normally done. B, you can deny it and try to do more research to debunk it. And you're always going to find information to debunk what you want to debunk. That's the way the algorithm of the internet works. It's research bias. It's confirmation biased, meaning that if I'm looking up information to debunk geoengineering, I will find a bunch of stuff on the internet. If I'm looking for information to debunk the people who are saying that geoengineering is a conspiracy theory, then I'm going to find that information as well. You can't go off the internet. You have to go off of scientific testing. Just follow the test. It's not anyone trying to move you to think a certain way or move your emotions or use emotional appeal to extract some kind of a mindset. It's not done that way. So there's no way after finding out this information that he's going to say, oh, you know what? I'm going to just go on and live my life. It's not my problem. I'm going to let the government do what it does. And hopefully one day God will save the day. No, he didn't do that. When you have information, there's a sense of responsibility that comes upon you as a sentient being. And I use the term sentient. It means that you are aware of yourself. You're not a robot. You have a soul. All right? When you get information, it's supposed to drive a purpose within you. What are you going to do with the information? It's not always a good thing to know, because the more you know, the more you have to do. The less you know, then you become a slave to those who own the information. And that's what's being done in America today. The information is owned by a handful of executives that control mass media, all right? And they tell you what to think. And you oblige and you follow orders. And anyone who doesn't fall in line is going to be considered a conspiracy theorist or a nut job. There was no point even pondering such a question. Looking the other way was not in my character. It never was. So it's not in his character to look the other way, not after finding out what he found out. And you got to understand, let's put everything in context. He continued to do subsequent testing after he found out aluminum was in it. It's almost as if he didn't want to believe it. And then he's also connected and networking with other people who are doing the same kind of tests. And they're all coming up with the same kind of comparable numbers in terms of the parts per billion of aluminum that's in the rainwater. So if they can find aluminum in the rainwater, where else are they spraying? What else is being done? When I left the dying forest in Arizona, I had hoped for at least a temporary reprieve from the increase in visible manifestation of anthropogenic damage to the biosphere. The term anthropogenic means that the damage to the biosphere is not something that's being naturally done. Anthropogenic means that it's being done by the hands of men via technology, of course. Technology is not a bad thing. It's just how men use the technology. Technology is a very good thing. It's supposed to help us advance, make our advancements. It's supposed to help us evolve and become much more efficient. But at times, when men get a hold of these technological devices, they often will use it for nefarious purposes. And what he's saying here is that the damage to our biosphere is not something that's done naturally. It's not a natural phenomenon. It's not natural disaster. It's not a natural disaster. It's an unnatural disaster that's being waged by the hands of men, hence the term anthropogenic. Okay, so when he says the manifestation of anthropogenic damage, he means damage that's being done by the hands of men. So I don't want you guys to get lost in his word and in his verbiage. When he uses the term anthropogenic, it's just a fancier way of saying man-made damage to the biosphere. And biosphere means life, the sphere of life, biosphere. I had hoped to see the still healthy ecosystem around me continue to thrive, at least for a time. But how could it? If highly toxic bioavailable heavy metals were coming down with the precipitation, the entire web of life would be severely impacted. That's true. The precipitation test I had taken in Northern California proved beyond reasonable doubt that the climate engineering contamination was not only in the rain, but had to also be in the entire air column. This meant that every breath I took was contaminated. Every breath my children took, the same. Climate intervention programs were in fact contaminating the entire planet, shredding the ozone layer, and systematically disrupting the Earth's hydrologic cycle. And when he talks about the hydrologic cycle, this is a cycle of the Earth: the rain, the warm areas due to precipitation, due to the hydrologic cycle. So you have a balance. You're not going to have extreme drought and extreme dryness. You're going to have a well-balanced ecosystem because the hydrologic cycle is being left alone. All right, it's the warming and cooling of the planet. It's the rainfall, the lack of rain, the rainfall, the lack of rain. It's a cycle, and it's done cyclically in a way that inserts harmonious balance to the entire planet. But when you start messing around with the hydrologic cycle, it throws everything off and everything becomes imbalanced. Hence you get extreme droughts in certain areas and extreme deluge and extreme rain in certain regions. You get extremely cold temperatures in certain regions and you get extreme heat because the hydrologic cycle is thrown off of balance. That disrupts everything. The very life support systems of the biosphere were being totally derailed by the ongoing geoengineering insanity. I could not turn away. There was no choice, no other option, and no other road to take. I had to focus every part of my time, energy, and resources on this covert climate engineering assault. He uses the term covert because it's been hidden from us. Why would they openly tell the public? Why would the news publicly say they're spraying chemicals on you guys? Why would they do that? Because it would be an uproar. They're not going to tell you things like that. But they will tell you that there are viruses in the sky, and they will tell you to run to your doctor to get a medical tool put inside you. They'll tell you to do that. And like sheep, okay, I'm going to the doctor. Okay, put it in. And inject me. This was the beginning of the extremely arduous, exhausting, but critically essential trek that has compelled me to the present day. I am determined to preserve or persevere on this journey, on this mission, until our skies are again free from climate engineering assault, or until I take my last breath. On an autumn evening in 1999, I stood high on a ridge in Huapai Mountains that now I know I was compelled to leave behind. The sun's rays were fading from a rapidly expanding and darkening cloud above me. I could not ignore what I knew. I was aware that the true severity of damage already inflicted on the planet by the human race was far beyond anything that the vast majority had even considered. Though I am not one to author a poem, on that autumn evening, I recorded my angst. So I'm going to read this poem by Dane Wigington. Listen, it's called Twilight Vision. Twilight Vision. He says, up the mountain ridge, I've taken flight. Daily I have bathed in the sun's golden light. A place of refuge from the meaningless fight. A place to consider our common plight. A time to look back at the way I have come, a time to look forward toward a task yet undone. I walk in awe in this lofty place, in awe of a boundless grace. The earth, a gift to man, ruthlessly abused for our selfish plans. For our selfish plans. Upon the ridge, the light fades to red. From deep in my heart comes a swelling dread. Is there time for man to contemplate? Or has blind desire sealed our fate? I'll stop there. Thank you guys for listening.